Hello friends. So who is resisting theory, isn't it? Yes. Now it is not only resisting, but it is theory is under attack. Now one of the points I would like to repeat, that is, what is literariness according to this Yale School of Deconstruction? That is the idea of Paul Deman. He says literariness is not aesthetic response. Aesthetic response because it relies on meaning, not aesthetic categories, because all the aesthetic categories are based on meaning. For example, figures of speech, tropes, diction, ideologies, historical study, philosophy, all this you can see. They rely upon or they depend on meaning. So what is the central point we are discussing is language is not a place where you store things or where you store meanings with direct connection to things. It is the voiding of those categories. Voiding, that's the key term. So what is literariness? It is not aesthetic response, but on the other hand it is voiding. Voiding of these categories. These categories means figures of speech and so on. Just now we have listed. So it is the voiding of these categories because linguistic signs are unreliable. That is, it is not, you cannot rely upon linguistic sign to convey meaning since there is no meaning. Understand? Linguistic signs you cannot rely upon for conveying meaning or imparting meaning. A linguistic sign, for example, see when you say cat or let us say dusk, this is a linguistic sign. There is no dusk inside this. Understand that? It's only a sign. The materiality of the thing is not present here. So I think that point is very clear. So you cannot rely upon linguistic sign to convey meanings, since there is no meaning. If there is no meaning, there is no aesthetics. So once again, I would like to repeat, that is literariness. Literariness is not aesthetic response because it is based on meaning. A linguistic sign you cannot convey meaning. That's point one to note. Second one, literariness is not mimesis. Because why? Mimesis is language imitating non-verbal entities. That is things. Things in the created world. What is mimesis? Mimesis, you remember Aristotle's idea of poetics. So he says it is not, literariness is not mimesis. Because mimesis, what is happening in language? Language is imitating non-verbal, that means solid, non-verbal, things so to say. So language imitates non-verbal things or non-verbal entities. So what happens is in language there is no place for storing things. Language is not a place for storing things. When you say dusk, you can't store dusk here. When you say day, you cannot store sunshine there. So these are very, we must say that two cardinal principles of Paul Deman. Definition of literariness. First, it is not aesthetic response because all aesthetic responses belong to meaning, and language does not convey any meaning. Secondly, you may think that what I am talking something which is totally against common sense, but this is not my view, not my theory. This is the theory of Paul Deman. And secondly, he says literariness is not mimesis, because in mimesis language is imitating things, non-verbal entities. While language is not a place, it is not a storehouse where you store things of the world. And a third point is, we know that literature is fiction, but Paul Deman says it is for some other reason. Our reason is that it is not reality, it is imagination, it is improbable probabilities and probable improbabilities of these things. That is the reason why literature is fiction. But Paul Deman says literature is fiction, not because it denies reality. So far we believe that literature is fiction because it denies reality, only imagination. But because literature, that is language, is not a transparent medium for conveying truth or information or knowledge. Did you get that? So far we were under the impression that literature is fiction because it is not real. There is no reality in it. So a story like Macbeth, you may not find a character like that in this world. There is no reality in this. It's fiction. Fiction means imagination. But here he says it is not because of that, but because the inability of the language. Literature uses language. So, inability of the language to convey, it is not a transparent medium for conveying truth. Understand? Literature, that is language, is not a transparent medium for conveying truth or information or knowledge. I think these 3 points, once again, one, literariness is not aesthetic response, it is actually voiding of aesthetic response and aesthetic categories. Second, literariness is not mimesis because language there imitates non-verbal entities. And third, literature is fiction not because it denies the reality, but because language is inability of the language to convey any meaning or truth or information. So once you use language, it is unable to, so to say. That is the reason why it is fiction. I think now it is clear. 3 points. 1, what is literariness? Not aesthetic response. 2, what is literariness? Not mimesis. 3, why is literature fiction? Because language is unable to convey truth. That's the thing. But linguistics of literariness unmasks, he says, all ideological aberrations. For example, he says you are reading the ideology, Marx's German ideology. When you are reading Marx's German ideology, you think that language conveys truth, information, knowledge, but language is unable to do all these things. Therefore, what happened? It unmasks all ideological aberrations. Those who don't know this, he says, they are poor readers of Marx's German ideology. So, the stuff that we are using, suppose you are preparing or you have made a cloth bag or you have made a bag, for example, for carrying water, suppose, with the leather or something like that. But if there are holes there, it cannot carry water. Exactly like you cannot carry water in that. Exactly like that. You are thinking that you are conveying ideology. You are thinking that you are imparting ideology. You are thinking that what you say in language is true. But in language what happens? Is unable to convey these things. Therefore, all the ideological aberrations. So the so-called ideologies that we believe, we follow, and after which we shout slogans, we have got different social formations, all these because he says these are all ideological aberrations. What the ideology says is not what actually ideology means, because in ideologies like literature, the stuff that is used is language, and language is not a transparent medium or unable to convey or impart such information or ideologies. Same with linguistics. Same with the literature or any verbal discourse. It's not only ideology, not only literature, but any verbal discourse is unable. Because we are using language. Language is unable to. It is not a transparent medium for conveying truth. Understand? So, now we come to this point. Why do people attack this language or theory? Yes. Why do people attack theory? We have seen linguistics of literariness is different from literariness. Linguistics or a linguistic analysis of literature will definitely show you where is the weakness. Where is the weakness? But at the same time, we can see there are people who attack this. What are the grounds? One, they say this theory is pure verbalism. Pure verbalism, they say. When you say materiality of the signifier and the materiality of the signifier, I take this. Simply, we are using language one way or another, or twisting it. So it is pure verbalism. Theory is a nonsense, according to them. That is pure verbalism. Then second he says, it denies reality principle. Theory denies reality principle. True. Because we have already seen that literature is fiction not because it is reality, but because the language is unable to convey reality. So, but on the other hand, the referential function of language, it seems that they are denying. When you say desk, in the room you say desk, then you look, you find the desk there. You understand? That way they are arguing. Means there is a positive presence in although it is a mental concept, but still it is motivated to. That's why Prof says so, motivated science. So it is motivated to an object. When you are saying something, the motivation is towards an object. So therefore the reason they say denies reality principle. Third is it is shameful ethically, politically, and also historically. Shameful and unethical. Shameful and unethical. Plus it is ahistorical. Shameful, unethical, and ahistorical. An analysis like this, it denies or it doesn't give any importance to ethics. There are discourses that have changed the human minds. So it is unethical because they are concerned only about presence, absence. And always any discourse in which you use language is unreliable. If you say like that, it is shameful, it is unethical, there is no ethical principles, and also no historical there is no history or historical principles are being denied. Understand? And a fourth point why they are attacking is says it blurs the distinction between literary and non-literary use of language. It blurs the distinction between the literary and non-literary use of language. You remember that principle? Linguistic science If you are using linguistic science do not carry any meaning or a thing in it. Linguistic science are mental concepts, and therefore language is it is nothing but a chain of linguistic science. In that case, what is the difference between literary use and non-literary use? There's no difference. That's what they say. That's what they understand, those people who attack. When we say that, it's nothing but a series of signs and significations. What is the definition of language given according to Paul Deman in this resistance theory? It is nothing but a system of signs and significations. If it is a system of signs and significations, what is the difference between literary use and non-literary use? So it blurs the distinction between. But on the other hand, we know day-to-day life also what we have been so far, we have understood that way, or we have been informed that there is a difference between literary and non-literary use of language. That's why we say one is literature and the other is non-literature. Or we make a distinction between, say, a notice written. It is or an advertisement. It's not literature. We don't consider it as literature. If you consider that there is a distinction between literature, literary and non-literary use of language. So it says, according to the theory put forward by Paul Deman and his followers, or his predecessors, or his masters like Jacques Derrida. So what they say, that there is no distinction between literary and non-literary use, because after all, what is language? It's nothing but a system of signs and significations. Understand? Now, the question here is, why do they attack? So 4 reasons why they attack. First, it is pure verbalism. Materiality of signifier and materiality of signified and so on. Then in this way and that way they are saying. Secondly, it denies reality principle. Yes. Language definitely has the support of the external things of this world, or created things of the world. So that is related to reality of life, reality of the world. Phenomenal, they say, phenomenal. Understand? Phenomena of the world, connected. They deny. Shameful, ethical, or historical. No such as historical considerations, ethics, no such thing. And thirdly, language is a system of signs and signification, and so there is no difference between literary and non-literary language. Understand? So that's the reason why they are attacking. The reasons why they attack. Alright. Then secondly, you will find that how it has been, the other side of the coin is, or the other side of the argument is, why do they attack? This is the attack. Why? The reason is, first, literary theory. Literary theory upsets rooted ideologies. Upsets rooted ideologies. So literary theory upsets, already we have seen, what are the things? Reality principle, ethical, it is shameful, no history in that, no consideration of history there. They are distinguished, there is, so far all this, while we were thinking, up to 1916 also we were thinking, that is the time when categorically, the year when categorically Saussure said that there is nothing in language. In language there is only difference. Up to that we were thinking that ideologies are solid. So once you say that in ideology uses language, language is unable to convey truth, then what happens? It upsets all rooted ideologies. Already we have seen they are poor readers of Marx's German ideology. Understand? Second is, it goes against the powerful philosophical tradition. Goes against the powerful philosophical tradition. So what is the philosophical condition? Metaphysics of presence. That is the philosophical condition. So whatever philosophy says is true. Whatever philosophy says is axiomatic. But we know philosophy uses language, so what philosophy says you cannot rely upon, because the stuff that you are using. Just now I told you about that bag. Suppose you make a bag of leather. If it has got holes, you cannot carry anything in that. You cannot carry water, you cannot carry milk, you cannot carry wine or any such. So it is like this. In language, there are the deconstructionist way of thinking. What have they done is they have pricked the holes in the bag of language. So language is unable to carry anything with it. And then it upsets, we can say, that is canons of literature. Upsets canons of literature. Canon of literature. Canonical. What is canonical means? A list of important, very, very important books. Why? Because the basis is canon. The basis of the canon is literary use of language. We have already seen that language is nothing but a system of signs and significations. So there is no distinction between literary and non-literary use of language. Then it threatens the so-called literary status of language. Same reason. Threatens the literary status of language. Already we have seen what is language. According to deconstructionist thinking, it is system of signs and signification. So literary status gone. Alright. Then it reveals the link between ideologies and philosophy. Theory unmasks, you can say, unmasks the link between ideologies and philosophy. Ideologies and philosophy. Because as already stated, they both use language. So when you think in this line, you find there is nothing positive in it. Nothing positive in it. And therefore what happens? What philosophers say and what philosophy, and from philosophy you have what ideologies, you find there is a link between the two, but both the link simply disappears, so to say. Because ultimately always you remember the definition of language given by deconstructionist way of thinking is language is nothing but a system of signs and significations, does not carry any metaphysics of presence. No presence, but only difference and absence. So such a thing, how can they convey philosophical ideas and also along with that ideologies? Practically is impossible. So that is how you rationalize. Why? Attack is mainly based on 4 points. One, it is pure verbalism. Second is denied reality principle. Third, it is unethical and ahistorical. And fourth, it blurs the distinction between literary and non-literary use of language. Now, this has been defended by those people who propose theories. They say that this is because it upsets rooted ideologies and then goes against the powerful philosophical tradition. See, up to the 19th century, early part of 20th century, the world was given by a philosophical tradition. One fine morning you find that the whole thing is meaningless. Naturally, you will get angry. That's why we have seen this. Upsets canons of the same thing. Everything is, so in other words we can see everything is deconstructed. The very fact that you come to a conclusion or define language as a system of, as a merely, you can say, a system of signs and significations, then in language there is nothing. Language is not a storehouse of external things of the world. Language, there is no one-to-one connection or link like signifier and signified. And also we come to understand that materiality of signifier cannot be confused with the materiality of the signified. That means, see, when you say B-E-N-C-H, bench, that is a material thing. You can touch it, you can see it, you can feel it. But there is no materiality of the signified. The signified is only a mental concept. That is the basic principle on which, or the foundation on which the entire resistance to theory has been built. The entire resistance to theory, or the theory, linguistic theory, has been built on this. That's why they say that literariness is not aesthetic response, literariness is not mimesis, literature is not fiction. Literature is fiction not because it denies reality, but because it uses language, and language is unable to present reality before us. So I think you have been following these arguments given by Paul de Man in his resistance to theory, and the way I am trying to explain this to you. You are following, you are happy with it. So bye, have a nice time, wait for the next lecture. See what is the model of language or model of linguistics. And there is a piece about trivium. Trivium means, I already mentioned that I think earlier. Trivium means three parts. Three parts there means grammar, rhetoric and logic. So that is the classical model of language. There are many models of language. The classical model of language is trivium. Trivium is grammar, rhetoric and logic. And within this trivium itself, even in this model, there is tension. Because very often what happens is, very often what we do is, we give importance to rhetoric over grammar and logic, and that approach to language is, language cannot be supported, cannot be defended. That is what he says in the next lecture, which I propose to do, say within 2 or 3 days time. Till then, bye, have a nice day.